What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex. I'm once again joined by Degenerate Jay. Jay, you and me have done a couple videos. This is kind of like a back-to-back-to-back feature because I think 3 days in a row, if you guys can believe it there at home, 3 days in a row, me and Jay are working together. We did one yesterday on my channel on Silent Hill. Today, actually, on Jay's channel, we're doing one on Demon Souls. You guys can check that out. I'll leave all that stuff in the description and the pinned comment. And then tomorrow, Jay's going to be on another video of mine, and we're talking about some different stuff. It's kind of now this one, I'm kind of trying to be a little bit more laid back because this is a very, I'd say, different kind of video than what I normally make. We're kind of going to do a recap of what's left from the PS5 event. So, I've talked about it quite a lot. We've reviewed it. We've gone over the highs, the lows, and now we need to go through everything in between. And there's 4 games that I believe on this channel I have not yet discussed. Now, firstly, again, Jay, thank you for joining me, which I'll let you say your part in a second. But again, Jay actually talked about Miles Morales on his own video, so make sure you guys check that out. We are going to talk about that, in this one. And then him and I also talked about Demon Souls on his channel. We're going to talk about Demon Souls a little bit here as well, okay? So a lot of back-to-back or double feature kind of thing. So Jay, thank you for coming a minute into this video.
Hey, dude, thank you so much for having me. I was sitting here trying to prepare myself mentally to actually talk, so I was listening. So the thing with the PlayStation event is it was very exciting. There was a lot of different news and games revealed here and shown off more. And a lot of them we knew about already. We knew Resident Evil was coming out. We knew Miles was a thing. But what this really did was it showed us more to it, gave us a more in-depth look at some of these things. I think Resident Evil, and we'll get into it, didn't show us quite as much as I was expecting to see, but I saw more than I was expecting to see from others like Miles. So there's a lot we can break down here today and just kind of, casually talk about because we're both just in general fans of good games. I don't think you or I are like the guy who's just like, I buy COD and 2K every year or something like that. I mean, I play COD. I know you don't as much anymore, but it's, we just like good games. And there was a lot of good games shown here.
Now, so on this channel, like I said, we've talked about a couple things. Obviously, we talked about Hogwarts. We're going to be skipping, some of the bigger things because I've just already covered it. So let's start let's start with Demon Souls. So we did this on Jay's. We'll get this kind of out of the way. This was something that, is just flat out amazing. You can go into detail. Honestly, I don't even think I'm capable of going into all the small details because, I never make it all that far in these games. I'm not good at them at all. They crush me, but I'm a guy who kind of likes that, and I think a lot of people do. Demon Souls, honestly, I think we saw more for Demon Souls than I probably expected. I wasn't even fully sold on that we would see this game here. There was talk of it, but we look at Ratchet and Clank. Ratchet and Clank's missing in action. Now that was in Gamescom just a few weeks ago, but kind of odd that that's a launch window game that has literally just been forgotten about, even by Sony in their blog post talking about Horizon. Me being on both. If you guys are still with me after that video, thank you. Sackboy, all that kind of stuff, and then Ratchet and Clank's nowhere to be seen. So Demon Souls, I don't think was a slam dunk that everybody expected it to be there, but I absolutely loved it. So I guess really quickly, Jay, what'd you think about it?
Well, I think 2 things. One, I do want to say really quick, I actually really liked your Horizon video. I did watch that earlier today, and I know that got a lot of backlash, but I agreed completely with you, even for some different reasons, because I think that these games being available on both is holding back the benchmarks of what they're capable of, and PC players have been feeling that for years. And Jay, how does that relate to what we're talking about? Well, Demon Souls isn't like that at all. This is just a straight PS5 game. And I think that what that's going to do is show us some of what the PlayStation 5 is capable of. I think it's the same way that even though it's not the most impressive thing visually anymore, Bloodborne did that. It was one of those pushing early graphics and performance and showing us blood effects and all this different stuff that the PlayStation 4 was capable of. I really do think in some ways Demon Souls is going to act as both a technical showcase for the PS5 at launch and what it's capable of. And I also think that it's going to really just be a quality, good remake from Blue Point Games, who, like we said before, God of War collection, they did that. The Ico and Shadow of the Colossus collection on PS3, they did that. And then they remade Shadow of the Colossus for PS4. Now they're doing Demon Souls. They did the Uncharted Nathan Drake collection. All kinds of stuff came out of this development team. I can't talk. There's a lot to be excited for here. And even the talks that they might add in that content that was cut from the base game that you and I talked about. Again, it's something I could rattle on and on and on about, but overall, I'm just very excited. I mean, there's nothing here I'm seeing that has me thinking, oh, I don't know about that, or oh, that's not a good idea. It's more just every time I see it, I'm like, buying that. I'm buying that. That's it.
Totally, and the thing you even just brought up, and I won't spend too much time. I will move on. But even the benchmark thing, that kind of makes me more mad for Horizon, because if Demon Souls comes out and it just blows everything away, and it's like Horizon could be that, and then it's not because of the PS4. That's we won't get into that. I won't have people hate me again, but that's just something for you at home to think about. Now, Miles Morales, that's one that has gotten obviously a lot of talk. Jay did a video on that on his own. Evan, he's done a lot of stuff on this channel as well. He's a great guy, right? He's done stuff. I don't, there's not, to me, look, this game is going to be really good. I will say this. I was surprised in a good way with the gameplay. I really feel like, because everybody's just hyped, and I know people subscribe to me for Spider-Man, I get that, but the more people have said it, if there's an example of a game that's gotten like so much talk and so many people maybe asking this or that, that's kind of lowered my excitement for a game, Miles is actually that game. It's weird. Like Gotham Knights, you would think maybe that would be talking about Batman so much, maybe I would get tired of it, and maybe I just wouldn't be as excited. It's actually Miles, but maybe that was a good thing, because I lowered my expectations, and that gameplay was, I will say, like, astonishing. It was really, really good. It was, in my opinion, if you told me we're going to put Spider-Man on the PS5, what would 2018 Spider-Man look like with some new things on the PS5? This is what it is. I mean, you saw all, like, obviously the ray tracing and stuff, and the puddle effects and all that kind of stuff, right? The talking points of this game, but just a lot of things happening on screen at once, a lot of details, the fight on the bridge, just a lot of the electricity and a lot of the different colors that are going on. I mean, you don't get that now. Now, will it be held back by the PS4? That's, I'm not going to get into that, right? Because I don't want, again, there to be a massive, negative thing there. But the game looks really, to me, absolutely incredible on PS5. I'm going to get it on PS5. I have my PS5, not in my possession yet. Hopefully it comes day one. But I am so, I will tell you, I really am. I'm so excited to play this game. I'm a lot more excited than I was literally the day of the event. To me, it still is not my most anticipated game. To me, that's Demon Souls for PS5. To me, it's games even like Watch Dogs or Mafia. Those are games I'm honestly looking forward to. And I got to be, flat out honest with people. I'm more excited for those than Miles, but that doesn't mean I'm anti-Miles. I'm very excited for it. It sold me if it needed selling. And again, the larger power it has. It's not even about me, too. When we talk about Spider-Man, it's more like, how is it going to help PlayStation? It's going to help PlayStation, and that's all that really, in my opinion, kind of matters. Jay, what'd you think about it?
I thought that it looks fantastic. And yeah, I'll try to TLDR it, because I feel like I come on here and I really extend the length of your videos when I'm in them, because I just don't shut up. But the Miles Morales game reveal looks incredible in terms of the gameplay. I think that one thing that's great to me is the tagline, be yourself, other than just be greater. So it's be greater, be yourself. And I think one of the big ideas for this that they're playing off of is essentially that Miles is Spider-Man, but he's not Peter. And it's not in the sense, though, of what we've seen sometimes in comic books, where it's, I need to come in and prove that I'm my own person. And because of that, it comes across, you and I have had talks about this as well, of just shoving a character in for the sake of having them there. I don't think that that's what Miles is. I do think that there's been some pushback to Miles already. I've seen people saying, well, I don't know if I want to play this. Is this going to be a woke thing or whatever? As somebody who's very anti that stuff in terms of just shoving something there to be there, no matter what it is, whether it's, a woke thing or anything, this doesn't come off that way to me at all in the story. It comes off very much like they are trying to build on this relationship of who Miles Morales was from the PlayStation 4 Spider-Man. You see in the PlayStation 4 Spider-Man, there's actually a scene where they're talking on the phone, and Miles comes up with an idea for, I believe, webbing with I don't remember if it was the tensile strength or it was something with the swinging. And Peter says, oh, I wouldn't have thought of that. That was sort of the first brush you see of not only Peter teaching Miles things, but Miles being able to come in and teach Peter things. He's a fresh set of eyes. He's from a different background. He fights a little differently. His movement's a little different. His music when he fights is a little different. It's a little more hip-hoppy, not in a caricature way, but in a background way. I think that the idea here is that Spider-Man, it's kind of like what they say about Batman all the time of it's an idea. The idea here is that somebody else can come in, and be Spider-Man with that same set of morals and values. And Spider-Man's just a guy. And because Miles is just a guy, I think the storyline looks incredible. On top of that, you have just the beautiful looking graphics. You have homages already. There was an homage to Spider-Man Homecoming with, when he held the boat together, when he's holding the bridge together, which is also in a way an homage to multiple things like Spider-Man 2. So obviously they know the history there and they're trying to appeal to those things. It looks like you have the set piece environment gameplay is incredible, because this was a set piece, kind of like you saw the crane gameplay when the original reveal was happening, but we also saw the free flow combat. So it looks to me like every aspect of this game is coming together really well. I'm expecting it to just be a more focused, smaller Miles Morales Spider-Man game, and so far I'm very satisfied with what I've seen.
Totally. This is a game that, I think you can, if they do it the wrong way, it can get the impression that it's a lazy kind of, this, or it could do two things. One, it's like a lazy 1.5 or a lazy tag on, right, to get to a Spider-Man 2. Like Lost Legacy, I was kind of worried when that was coming out, but that ended up being really good. And another one is a tech demo, like you just said. No, what's interesting is the bridge was, I think, a tech demo. Like, I mean, there's a reason why they picked that. It was more like flashy. It showed off some big, set pieces, but it also had the combat mixed in. I mean, there's reasons why you do these things, right? But at the same time, the game itself isn't going to be like that. And I think that's what's exciting when you look at the PS4's launch. And this is, by the way, this is in defense of Miles. When you look at what the PS4 launched with, it was a lot of tech stuff. It was Killzone Shadowfall, which I mean, come on, yeah, I actually do like Killzone, but Shadowfall just flat out wasn't anything to write home about. Infamous Second Son, even, which was February of after PS4 came out, that was, I would say, the biggest tech demo of all time. I really did not like Second Son, being a massive Infamous guy, and so we don't really see that this year. You don't really have a PS5 lineup anymore because a lot of games are on PS4. But Miles is not lazy. Demon Souls is not lazy. So Miles, even though a lot of the stuff there was like, hey, look at what we can do now. Look at what the PS5 is capable of. It was still okay. Like Jay just said, I think they can tell a really good story. They can have some different villains that they've never had before, that's existed, but they haven't had in the game. So there's a lot of potential here, even for a smaller game. A smaller game, by the way, that's $10 extra than what it normally would have been. Remember, because Sony is raising all prices seemingly by $10. That's not going to sit well with everybody. I get it, and we will move on from there. Thirdly, let's talk about Final Fantasy XVI. So this is one that I don't really know how many people have requested of me, but I want to talk about it because, look, Final Fantasy. Now I know, Jay, you have I think your pinned post on Twitter still is your Final Fantasy VII review. Now let me tell you something. I've seen that. And I know you're a massive fan, and Final Fantasy VII, I don't know if we've ever said this to each other, but Final Fantasy VII's remake is my game of the year, and I think it probably will be through the rest of 2020. I adore that game. I've never played the original. I'm not even a big Final Fantasy guy. I played the last, main installment of Final Fantasy, but I didn't play the original Final Fantasy VII or really any of the other games. I watched my sister play 13 with all the lightning stuff, but 16, I mean, come on. I really, does it look as technically impressive as some of the other games we saw? No. In fact, in a way, honestly, it didn't even look as good as Final Fantasy VII. Maybe, the remake, maybe that's not a majority opinion. It just kind of as how it came off to me. But man, I'm pumped. I mean, more Final Fantasy. And besides that, because again, I'm fully capable of gushing on anything for several hours, but the fact that this is a PlayStation exclusive. Now, there's confusion because they mentioned PC, but then they retracted it, and Sony said, no, it's just on PS5. Square Enix has said, no, it's not on any other console. It's not on PC. Same thing with Demon Souls. Demon Souls had the weird thing where at the end, it said also playable on PC, but then Sony said an hour later, no, that was a mistake. It's not coming to PC. It's only PS5. I believe them. I also believe they messed up, so that is kind of weird, but this being a PlayStation exclusive, we all knew it if we followed the lead. In fact, I've actually covered it. Add one to my I was right meter, which I don't always do, but I had been calling this. We've been talking about this for several months, and whether or not the quality is good or not, this being a PlayStation exclusive is, I think, enormous, honestly, because Final Fantasy is such a big game. Enormous for the PS5. So, Jay, what do you think?
Well, I have a few things to cover here. One, I'm sitting here clenching my fist. You never played the original Final Fantasy VII. So
Never.
that one's a cardinal sin for me, but I will say that I excuse it because you and I talked, and I like X-Men Apocalypse as a movie.
Oh my God.
So
we're even.
So I feel like we're even on that one for sure. So anyways, moving past that, I have some conflicting opinions on this. Now, I love Final Fantasy VII Remake. I to cover the PC part, I'm kind of thinking that it could be something like Horizon, where eventually it does come to PC. There's been
Right.
talks
Or
about
just a
that.
year exclusivity, like Sevens is
Yes.
a 1 year.
Yeah, and I'm still waiting on that because I want to get my waifu outfits going for Tifa on PC. So let's hurry that up, please, guys. Like I'm lonely here. But regardless, I do think that this game is looking fantastic. I have some weird reservations with this. I'm going to be a little more critical on it than you are, I think. Believe it or not, as a big Final Fantasy fan, because it seems like the focus on this again is going back to the crystals, which I think has been done to death. I don't really know if you need to do that again. That's a big thing in all the classic Final Fantasies, and I just think that we've covered it. I think that I was actually a little disappointed with the combat, believe it or not, because I know that they want to be fast action oriented, but we saw that with 15. We saw sort of a version of that with Type Zero. It's very different. It's not really the same thing, but we saw it with Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I'm happy with it in those games. I just didn't I'm starting to get the impression that they're done with turn-based stuff for their main line games from comments they've made about the aging of it and stuff like that. And I guess that kind of worries me a little bit. I mean, could they do this style going forward and just have that be their permanent style? Absolutely. But to me, Final Fantasy should be both. If you want to have the real-time action combat, more like Star Ocean does, or something like Kingdom Hearts, go for it. But I think that there's still a place in these games for turn-based. So maybe my take on that is a little biased, just because for me, it seems like they're trying to appeal to the past with the crystals, but throw away the past with the combat. And I don't know how well that's going to work out. I was getting very big Final Fantasy 13 vibes from the presentation of this trailer. And that is Final Fantasy 13 is considered in the community of Final Fantasy to be one of the worst games they've
Yeah.
released. So that those are my concerns. Now, does the game look good? Yes. To me, it looks like a PS4 game. Maybe people will be a little annoyed at me saying that, but it really did to me. I just hope that it comes out and proves me wrong on this stuff. If it's as good as Final Fantasy 15, it can keep all the real time combat it wants to. I guess I just have those concerns more as a Final Fantasy fan versus just a video game consumer. Yeah, maybe that take doesn't make sense. I'm not sure.
Yeah, definitely. No, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan in the world, but I can, when it opened, that was the game. Now they opened with that, which, by the way, I don't really know how you top something like that in terms of, again, the power of it being like, an exclusive. But that was the only. Remember, that one was a PC capturing or emulating, right, PS5 gameplay. That's the only one they did that with. And then after that, they had the slide that even said every game after this is on PS5. So very odd that it's shown on PC, and then there's all this confusion of if the game is going to be on PC, maybe even the first day with place that's just basically not on Xbox, right? So that was very, and I agree with you. I think that's kind of what I was getting at with it. Doesn't look as good in my mind as as Seven's remake. It does look like a PS4 game, doesn't look like a PS5 game, especially again when you measure up even Miles, Demon Souls, a lot of those games. So we'll have to see, maybe it's like a very early, beta kind of like alpha, so we'll have to see how far out this game is. But yeah, no, I've seen the 13 stuff. I know people don't like that one. I think the power of Final Fantasy, especially now, is being able to get those people that have never played before. And I'm not saying that's the majority, because Final Fantasy does have so many games and has been around for so long. It's really not that, because I think you probably have more people that have been fans for a long time than people jumping in. But you do have to, I feel like, appeal to both of them. And you're right. I mean, you could end up doing things where you drop one of them and to kind of push the other one up, and that doesn't always work. And I think with 16, yeah, like you were saying, if they keep dropping what made old time fans happy, you may get some new people, but at the same time, maybe you're sacrificing even some quality for that. So it's definitely an interesting one. I just want to talk, I'm going to talk about it. I'll talk about it many, many more times as we get closer to it. But that was one. And then finally, if you guys made it this far, thank you so much. Resident Evil 8. So Resident Evil Village. Sorry, the Capcom said they don't want people calling it 8. Did you know that? They said they don't want it to be called Resident Evil 8, even though they keep highlighting the Roman numerals in the name Village to make it seem like, yeah, it's RE8 or RE Village, but they don't want you to say 8. Bottom line, I agree with what Jay said actually in the beginning of this video. I expected more Here's what I'll say, though. I expected nothing. I didn't expect it to be there at all. And then when I saw it, I was like, oh, my dear God. I literally got a buckle from my car, brought it in. I was like, okay, I'm ready to see some amazing stuff. And it honestly wasn't all that much. It was a lot of, honestly, what we had heard from the playtesters. There was playtesting going on of this game over the past couple months. We've heard a lot about enemy types, a lot about the story, a lot about locations. A lot of it seems like it was, thumbs up. Like, yeah, that's all true based off of that trailer. So it did reaffirm some things. It looked great. I'm getting it day one. Like, there's no problem there. I'm very, very excited. I love 7. So this is a day one buy for me. But yeah, I was kind of honestly, maybe it's because they're going to TGS, in like 2 weeks. Actually, next weekend, I believe they're going to show more stuff as well. So they'll have more stuff. This, I feel like, kind of was maybe a surprise throw in. Like, maybe they went to Capcom and said, hey, do you have something? Do you want to do? We announced your game back in June. Do you want to do something again here? And they're like, well, we were going to do something in a couple weeks, but we can give you a little. But so I agree with Jay. I was expecting more, but at the same time, I was expecting nothing, if that makes sense. So, Jay, what'd you think?
Am I just going to come off as like the really negative? You're going to get a lot of comments today like, well, Jay doesn't know what he's talking about, or Jay didn't do this or that. I didn't play 7 yet.
Oh,
so I'm behind.
That's okay. That's
the thing is, the last one I played was 6. 6 was a mess. It had one good campaign in it that was Leon's, which I would argue is actually a pretty objectively fun campaign, with still some survival horror stuff in it. After that, they went back to the drawing board for 7. I've watched a lot of 7. I just never played it myself, and I will eventually. I have conflicting opinions on this as a longtime Resident Evil fan of the old games. Again, I kind of miss the third person survival horror.
The thing with 7 is I think a large majority of people don't like the first person stuff in 7. That's the biggest weakness, and them continuing in 8 does make people mad. So I think a lot of people are on board with you there.
Yeah, it's not even that I'm mad about it. It's more just like I'm looking at it and I'm seeing elements of PT in it. I know people said that of the original 7 as well, of you're going more in just that direction versus what Resident Evil was. Now, is it still a great game? Yeah, from what I watched of 7, that's a fantastic horror game, absolutely. It doesn't really look like Resident Evil to me, but I understand they're going in this direction. I think the game is going to be great. I don't understand their marketing of it, where they want to keep highlighting 8 and not have you say it like you said. It's just kind of weird. I guess I could call it Resident Evil 7 too, if that would make them feel better. But I don't know. There's concerns I have about going the more supernatural direction. There's been a lot of talk about, werewolf type stuff and things like that from playtesters. I don't have concerns about this game being good. That's the same thing I said, I think, about Final Fantasy XVI. The problem is when you slap this name on it, the only concern I have is it still Resident Evil? And then equally, someone can respond, well, what is Resident Evil? Does Resident Evil have to stay what it was forever? And the answer is no. Maybe I'm kind of an old man who likes the tradition. I like what I know, I guess. And to me, this is something I don't know. I have no reservations about this being a bad game. I know it'll be a good game. I just wonder, from the standpoint of being Resident Evil, will it satisfy fans? I guarantee it will sell millions of copies like 7. I guarantee it'll bring in tons of new people. But you also come to this weird crossroads where you've split the fan base, and now if you want to go back to the old style, do the new people care about that, and are the old people still around? And that's kind of the only question I have for Resident Evil going forward is, as an identity, what do they want to be? Do they want to be the Outlasty, PT-ish, first-person survival horror game indefinitely going forward? Is that the new direction, or are they going to bring back the old style as well, like they've tried to do with the remakes, and they did very well with 2 and then blundered a little bit with 3, but it's still a fun game. It just has me wondering what Resident Evil wants to be going forward, more than I'm even thinking about this game itself.
They're really, I think, throwing everything they got at a wall with Resident Evil, which is not, by the way, in a weird case, which this is not a bad thing. But they're literally saying, okay, we're going to remake all of them. We're going to do some very different things with 7 and 8, but we're going to kind of intermix it again with like 2 and 3 being, and we know 4 is next, right? So 4 is in 2022. They're going to have the 4 remake, which I think that's a game you don't really touch, but they're doing it anyway. So yeah, they're trying a lot of different things, which I do respect. I think, honestly, I agree with you. With 6, Leon's is the best, and I think they just went such a different. And again, it's a minority opinion, but with 5 and 6, I enjoyed them. But I enjoyed them because they were something that Resident Evil just is not, okay? With the way they did Chris and all that stuff. I mean, 5 is not a Resident Evil game, okay? And I would argue most of 6 isn't. So, I mean, I like them, actually, and I think that's kind of, I don't think a lot of people will say that, but I completely get why. And for people that are maybe, and I get you're not, but people that are like, I can't believe they went to first person, like that's such, well, I mean, think about where they were in the time. They saw PT, they see these games going in this direction. I mean, think about Amnesia, too. That's a good one, right? Kind of outside the realm, but that's a fantastic horror game. They make 5 and 6, and they say, we need to switch this up. We need to go back to our roots, but not just that, but we need to change things. We need to go to a first-person thing. Maybe that'll work for us. And you know what? It did. I mean, I think 7, the reason why I was scared for the majority of the game is because it was first-person. So I'm on board there. I completely get people that are, obviously you guys know me by now, right? I'm on board with people that don't like that, but I think that's kind of, do I think it's very fluid where they could go back to it? Yeah, because honestly, I think Capcom is willing to do whatever whatever comes to their minds on any given day, which I think is actually kind of rare.
Yeah, I think that, so with Capcom too, I think that Resident Evil and Monster Hunter are their things right now. They have other stuff. Marvel versus Capcom is kind of in the tank. I think that's pretty dead after Infinite, like it or not. I don't think Marvel's going to really want to go back to that at all. And I think that Mega Man is something they could really build up, but for some reason when they lost Inafune, they decided to just kind of drop in a lot of ways, except for a few re-release ports on PS4, and your grandma's toaster can play the original Mega Man now. I mean, that thing is everywhere. It's like trying to outdo Skyrim in terms of being ported lately. But other than that, these are the games they have to work with, really, with Capcom. And maybe I'm missing something, and obviously you can bring it up if I am, but I really think it's Monster Hunter and Resident Evil. These are the ones that are going to push millions of units. They want to put their best foot forward. I think that's why you're really only going to see good games from those, because they really did get kicked in the butt on having Monster Hunter where it was just stuck on sort of dead consoles like the Wii U, and sort of seeing, oh, we should probably go out from just Nintendo to everybody and making that available to everyone. And I think they had the same kick in the butt with RE6. This sold a lot of units, but it hurt the brand so bad that it wasn't worth it. I think that those things have sort of reinvigorated Capcom to make both of those series very good. I think people's reservations on them, like I have a little bit with some of the style stuff, I think they're founded. I still think the games deserve a chance, even if they're different. I've always said I'm somebody who likes what I know, but different's not bad. And if you don't try new things, you never find new things you like. So if this is a way that they can find new styles of game that work and push forward the horror genre of video game, even if I have some, I don't know, as a Resident Evil fan, I'm still all for it.
I agree. They're in an interesting spot, but honestly, I think this game is going to be overall really solid. They also have the VR aspect of it that they're not talking about, because Sony isn't talking about the VR2, which we kind of know inadvertently they're waiting on. They're waiting on Sony to talk about their VR before Resident Evil talks about it. So that's kind of a waiting game for, honestly, an entire different way of playing this game that does elevate it. Don't forget that was a really big thing with 7, being able to play the whole thing on VR. You see it with Hitman now, and then Resident Evil Village as well. So it's going to be, that could honestly help it a ton as well. Guys, firstly, I do want to thank you for watching this video. Jay, I want to thank you for being on this kind of first extended pod, literally on this channel. I don't really think my videos are podcasts. I know people call them that, but this is, I would say, a gaming podcast that we just recorded. So thank you so much for being on. I think we nailed a lot of different topics. People can let us know if they like these kind of extended videos. I'm definitely up to do more, but I really do appreciate you coming. Guys, as always, make sure you check out his stuff. His stuff will be in the description below. His channel, his Let's Play channel, his Twitter, all that stuff. I'll leave it there. I'll leave it in the pinned comment down below, all that kind of stuff. So Jay, again, thanks so much for being on.
Hey, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. We're always talking in Twitter DMs as well when we're not recording, so it's not like we hop on, pretend to like each other, and get off. So I really appreciate that pretty fluid friendship. You're one of the few people on YouTube that I would actually call my friend, and I appreciate you helping me, and I help you, and I had a really good time today talking about these games. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So let us know in the comments below, guys, what do you think about all of these games? If you guys want to see more videos like this, totally up to do it. Make sure you guys are subscribed here to Jay, all that good stuff, and we'll see you all on the next video.